I'm Zunaira Azhar and you're watching Epicenter, where we dissect, analyze and help define major domestic and global stories. Let it be the clashes between various state institutions, endless vindictive politics and social divisiveness, or the growing uncertainty stemming from increasing restrictions imposed by successive governments in Pakistan, all point to a glaring absence of a functional democracy in our political landscape. No matter the government, no matter the political party, this cyclic decline of democracy has a direct bearing on the people of Pakistan, in particular when it comes to the economic cost of it. Before we delve into a more detailed discussion on this, let's have a closer look at the major events of this week in this report. A new political front seems to be brewing in the form of a possible coalition between PTI and JUIF. A PTI delegation met Jamiyat-e-Ulama-e-Islam's chief Maulana Fazlur Rahman this week, calling it a meaningful meeting between the two. Fazlur Rahman also said that if the differences with PTI cannot come to an end completely, they can surely be softened.
Opposition जमातों के दरमियान राब्ते रहें और मुल्क के मसाइल पर हम मुश्तरक मौक़िफ़ लेते रहें। एक मुश्तरक मौक़िफ़ लेने के लिए एक सियासी माहौल भी मौजूद रहे। इस तसव्वुर से हमारा कोई इख्तलाफ नहीं है। हम चाहते हैं कि सियासी माहौल में राब्ते बढ़ते चले जाएं, ताल्लुकात की बेहतरी की तरफ जाना हमारा मकसूद भी है।
PTI Central Information Secretary Rauf Hassan was attacked in Islamabad this Tuesday. Hassan was attacked with a blade outside a private TV office. Eyewitnesses reported that a group of transgenders struck Rauf Hassan on the face with a blade. Hassan was transferred to a hospital for medical treatment, where later in the day he was discharged. Addressing a press conference in Islamabad on police action in the matter so far, PTI leader Umar Ayub alleged that the police tampered with the FIR and called for a judicial commission to investigate the incident.
वो लोग, वो वारदाती टोला अभी तक वो कहां पे है? जिस माशरे में रूल ऑफ लॉ नहीं होगा, कानून और आकाइन की बालादस्ती नहीं होगी, वहां पे कोई किसी किस्म की सरमायाकारी नहीं होगी। इस्लामाबाद पुलिस का रिकॉर्ड अंग्रेजी में उसको डिसमल कहते हैं, यानी कि आदमी उसको 0+0+0 ही कह सकता है।
Pakistan Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif on Thursday arrived in Abu Dhabi on a working visit to UAE. The Vice President, Deputy Prime Minister and Chairman of the Presidential Court of UAE, along with a number of officials, received Prime Minister upon his arrival. Prime Minister expressed his determination to transform Pakistan's economy with the help of the UAE.
That, my dear brother, like your great father, you have supported Pakistan like a family member, like a brother. But today I'm here in this great country, this great brotherly country, not to seek for loans, but to seek joint collaboration. Seek joint investments which have mutual benefits for the investor and draw dividends through hard work, ingenuity, and by using modern tools and skills.
In another development, the Punjab government on Monday passed the Punjab Defamation Bill 2024 in the Punjab Assembly amid strong protests from the opposition and the journalist community. The law is set to apply to false and untrue news spread through print, electronic and social media, and would replace the Defamation Ordinance 2002. To discuss this all, we have been joined by an esteemed panel, Fahad Hussain, senior journalist and political analyst. We have with us Muhammad Malik, senior journalist and political analyst. Brigadier retired Haris Nawaz, who is a defense analyst but keeps a keen eye on politics as well. And coordinator to the Prime Minister, Rana Ehsan Afzal. Rana Ehsan, I'm coming straight to you. Why nobody from the government is engaging with Maulana Fazlur Rahman, given the fact that you guys have been very closely working in the last 2 years, PDM government, and the alliance actually goes back to the 80s, the politics of 80s. What is wrong this time?
Well, it's not true that we haven't engaged with Maulana Saab. I think when the government was being formed, our leadership met with Maulana Saab. But the issue is that the expectations of Maulana with the election results that he was having to get a mandate from the people of Pakistan, they didn't come about. And, his complaints were mostly from KPK, and his claim is that the mandate is stolen. But if it's true, it means that the mandate is stolen by PTI, because that is the leading party from KPK, which has a majority. So it's, we don't understand that his complaints are from the Election Commission of Pakistan, and, the solution lies from the courts of Pakistan. So there's not much that we can offer to him when he says that the mandate is stolen, because, if his claim is true, it has to be validated from the ECP or the courts of Pakistan. That's number one. Number two, if his complaint is correct, then how is it so that he is aligning with PTI on an issue where PTI supposedly has stolen his mandate?
That's my exact question. They have been the arch rivals, and now they are connecting, and you are not.
So it means that, maybe Maulana Saab is not happy staying outside the setup. And for that, I think we should be engaging with him, because Maulana's politics has been pro-Pakistan. He has not contributed to any political instability in Pakistan. So yes, I agree that our government should be engaging, and there is this point of view. But at the end of the day, there is not much that we can offer to the complaints that he is raising. The complaints that he is raising, the solutions lie from within the ECP and the courts of Pakistan.
All right, Fahad, I'm coming to you. When someone like Maulana Fazlur Rahman is disgruntled, it means that he has been very close to the security apparatus of Pakistan and the political parties of Pakistan. Something has really gone wrong. What is your assessment?
Well, obviously, what has gone wrong is that Maulana Saab has not been able to achieve the kind of electoral success that he thought he would. He also feels neglected. He also feels wronged. He thinks that the establishment did not support him, and that he should have had a far bigger piece of the pie. So essentially, his entire politics revolves around the fact that he's not been able to get his way with the establishment, and that his electoral base has shrunk. Now, the issue here is that what are the options that he has, what are the options that the PTI has, and clearly, what can the government do? As you can see very clearly, that the government is trying its best not to criticize Maulana Fazlur Rahman. But as Rana Saab very correctly said, that there is not much that they can give him. His demands, if you call them, are directed at the establishment. His complaints, his grievances, everything is linked to the establishment. And at this particular point, I think what he's looking for, what he's wanting, is unavailable from the establishment, which kind of pushes him into the PTI's lap. Now, obviously, as you very rightly said, that it is ironical that the very harsh foes of yesterday are friends today. But the bigger question in my mind is, can the Maulana really make a difference when it comes to the opposition mounting some sort of a street challenge to the government? I think it is a bit too early. I don't think there's any decision made, and I think the Maulana is going to play his cards very well. He's a patient man. His politics is marked by well-calculated moves, and I don't think he's going to take any rash decision, which is why I think there is space for the government and the establishment to somehow engage with him.
All right, Mr. Malik, hypothetically speaking, do you see any street agitation, mass protests, anything that is brewing up, let's say, for the government in the times to come regarding PTI and JUIF?
First, let me comment on what you said earlier. Why is the government not talking? I think you guys have probably missed out on the latest statement by Rana Sanaullah. Rana Sanaullah Saab said, he was asked the same question. He said that right now we are not engaging Maulana Saab, because if we to start talking to Maulana Saab now, then PTI will not form an alliance with him. And from his words, it became very clear that the government actually wants an alliance between Maulana Fazlur Rahman and PTI, because they think that with Maulana Sahab there in that alliance, it will actually tamper the behavior of PTI, and the government may be able to have some sort of a negotiation. Because right now, PTI has taken an extremely extreme position. They say, okay, our starting point is get Imran Khan out of prison and return our mandate. Now, that can be a bargaining chip, but this can't be a pre-qualification thing. So, the government actually, ironically, wants Maulana Sahib to join hands with PTI because they think dialogue will happen once he's there. And it does make sense. As far the street is concerned, the agitation is concerned, historically in Pakistan, nobody starts any agitation movement at the height of summer. You have to be stupid, downright stupid to do it. In June, July, history dekho. In history also you'll see things start warming up around September, October, August onwards. So September onwards, you can see street heating up. But before that, nothing happens. Nothing happens at the height of summer. So right now it's all talk. You already Nawaz Sharif is also planning touring all the provinces. He becomes, on Tuesday, he should become the president of Muslim League again. He plans touring all provinces. So you will see some activity happening. But increased political activity and an agitation that is going to bring down a government, those are two, diabolically
different
opposite things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see
Harris,
more political activity and things like that.
All right. Brigadier Harris, is there a carrots and stick policy going on regarding PTI? First, there was attack on Rauf Hassan. Then there was this PTI Central Secretariat building, which was partly demolished by the local authorities. And then Pervez Elahi has been released. How do you assess that?
You see, Zunaira, first of all, I'd like to comment your first question. The point is, it is an unnatural alliance of Maulana Fazlur Rahman and PTI. Number two is a marriage of convenience for a very short period with a lot of mistrust existing between the two parties. We know what has happened in the past. Maulana Fazlur Rahman want to join PTI for this agitation, just want to put pressure on PDM. PDMI means PMLN and People's Party. He feel that he was dished, he was promised a presidential candidature that they did not agree. And PT know that they both have the street powers. So they want to combine together, they want to put pressure on the establishment that now we are coming to streets, better decide something, whatever you want to give relief to PTA. That is the basic thing, but there's a big mistrust, they will never come on the street. PTI is a leaderless party at this moment. There's a big there are a lot of things happening within their truth because the lawyers and the politicians, they are not the same grade. And Imran says something else, and when they come out, there's some different story coming up. So power is there when you have a full leader is available with them, and that is not there. Second, because the government is coming heavy on PTA because they are not coming to any terms. They want that he should be out and he should be coming on street and he should be getting problems. The government should be toppled, which at present you cannot afford. Because this is the time you need political stability. You need economic
that is their bargaining chip. That the timing is their bargaining chip, and I'll come to this point. It's time for me to take a short break here. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show once again, and Rana Ehsan, I'm coming straight to you. Let's talk of this defamation conundrum, the Punjab Defamation Bill 2024. First, there was this blanket ban on the social media already happening, and the access to internet is already an issue in Pakistan. There is an economy, internet of economy attached to this matter. That is why it is important as well. But if there is a narrative that the government wants to actually counter, there has to be a counter narrative, not restrictions or the blanket bans. How do you defend this?
Firstly, if you study the defamation bills, previously enacted by the federal government, they're not working. In Pakistan, you hardly ever hear that someone has been, punished for defamating and creating propaganda against another person. So the current laws are not working. That is given. So obviously, this was an effort from the Punjab government to cater to that. And, according to the Punjab government, they've ensured that freedom of speech and freedom of expression does not get hurt. Rather, people who are involved in, making false propaganda, be it on social media or other platforms, there is some sort of accountability. And, the tribunals are there so, we can have some decisions in 6 months. So the mechanism is that, the person who is accusing has to put up a set of questions and prove that he has some evidence or, he has a case which is valid.
To me, as a journalist, because the definition of social media and journalist and newspaper is too vague in this bill. To me, if somebody thinks that I am spreading a fake news and I'm being called by a tribunal, it would take me ages to prove myself right in the eye of the system. How do you think this is going to work?
So the way it is working all across the world, I mean, if you accuse someone, you have to prove that accusation. You should be having some sort of evidence based on which you are accusing. And if you're unable to prove that, then obviously, there should be some accountability. So that is what this act is
but
based.
We have to protect our sources as well as at times as a journalist.
Well, you see, obviously, if you're accusing someone, it can't be that, there is this source that you have to bring, even if you don't want to disclose the source, but there has to be some sort of evidence. It can't be hearsay. So,
Okay. Okay,
so
let me go to Fahad. Fahad, what do you think of this? Like investigative journalism, the very base of it is protecting your source. And if I have to prove that my story is right, how do I prove it in front of the tribunals or the system?
Well, the issue with this defamation law is far wider than that. I think it is absolutely a travesty the way that they've gone about it. And of course, we can talk in detail in terms of the vague points, the vague issues, the vague clauses in the bill. But I think fundamentally there are two essential flaws. Number one is the fact, which I'm actually very surprised. There has been no discussion with stakeholders, no consultation, no deliberations, which is something which is fundamental to any kind of reform or any kind of legislation that needs to be done. So it is surprising, and it is also grounds for suspicion why the government has shied away from speaking with media organizations and associations. That's point number one. Point number two, the draft of the bill, the language, the way that it has been framed and formulated is not only shoddy, but it is also unprofessionally done. It leaves very large loopholes for the government to crack down on anyone who is criticizing the government for one reason or the other. More important, it doesn't give the person who has been accused the right to defend. So if I have written something and somebody complains to me, I have no right to defend myself, which is absolutely ludicrous. So in essence, I think this is a bad law, this is a black law, and it must be taken back. Otherwise, it will be seen that the government is wanting to crack down on the freedom of expression and on the and overall on the media itself.
Mr. Malik, it's a draconian law, according to the civil society and the journalists. But do you see much happening to change it?
Hassan, he's one of the young politicians who's progressive, liberal, and pretty sane also. So when he has to defend this insanity, I can only feel sorry for him. There are black laws, there are draconian laws, and there are stupid laws. This is actually a stupid law. I call it stupid because I don't think it's going to survive judicial scrutiny. And stupid because it's very obvious. The intent is very obvious. Make everybody just shut up. That's the simple thing. And it's going to happen. Like 2-3 things very quickly. Abhi Rana Ahsan Sahab said, it's a universal thing when somebody makes an allegation, he should prove it. Absolutely true. It's also universal that when you're charged with a crime, you have an automatic given right to defend yourself. In this case, you have to first satisfy the tribunal that he should allow you to defend yourself. And just in case that person decides, no, I don't think you need to, there's enough material for you to defend yourself. So actually there's a trial and there's a pre-trial. And he's going to slap you with a fine of 3 million if he turns it down. And that fine can go from 3 million to 30 million. Secondly, even if you're giving him permission to defend yourself, that there also he can impose financial conditions and other sureties. I mean, where in the world do you need to first fight a case to defend yourself against the charge? Then over here also there are two classes. There's one what I call the black, क्या कहते हैं, नीले काले पीले लोग, small crockery. If the claimant is somebody, a public office holder, let's say a chief minister, prime minister, president, then a judge of the high court will become that tribunal, one-man tribunal. And if it's ordinary people, the other people, for them it's going to be another tribunal. Law is supposed, and Human Rights Commission of Pakistan has taken up also, law is supposed to be same for everyone. How can you have, even in a defamation law, two categories? There's one normal class and there's one AC class. They say, oh, you have it in the train stations now. There's a bogie, AC bogie and a normal bogie. So here also, if you're a public office holder, you get a high court judge. If you're another guy, you do it. Third, when you make a defamation law, you make a defamation law that applies to every citizen.
Yeah.
It is not confined to journalists.
Not only on social media users and journalists.
What an ordinary person defames. There are so many provisions in this law that, no, they're not loopholes. They are deliberately created provisions.
Well, why is
so
PMLN taking the lead
anyone.
in this? That's the question. Brigadier Harris,
Because
no matter...
PMLN don't have a story to tell. PMLN doesn't have a story to tell.
They need a narrative. They don't need more restrictions.
They need silence of the lambs. It's not going to work.
Okay. Brigadier Harris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, why are we becoming more and more authoritarian with every passing government?
Zunaira, the point is we don't have to be very authoritarians. Law exists. All law exists. The problem is implementation, and that where we lack. Second, we have seen a lot of irresponsible statements coming and accusations coming on social media against security forces, individuals. That has also been curbed. But point is, if you want to enact a law, it should have been through by the federal government and implementing the whole of the country. Punjab government can't have a different law and the Sindh government a different, KPK and Pakistan has a different law. This is a basic problem, should not have been there. And then, of course, the freedom of speech is there, that journalists and other trawlers who are there on social media must realize what they're talking. Are they supporting the enemy narrative? Are they supporting threatening the national security? These are the issues. On certain things, you have to be very particular. Our people of Pakistan, everybody should understand that how does it affect the national security and how it's threatening them.
For that, we can have a mechanism. We can have a mechanism involving all the stakeholders.
You cannot silence the entire media on the pretext of taking the few guilty ones.
Yeah, the blanket ban and restriction.
You can still do that without silencing.
Is not the answer.
This is just an excuse.
I agree.
Rana Ahsan, I want to get back to Rana Ahsan because he's representing the government here. Do you think that you missed on involving the major stakeholders before passing this law?
Well, it's a given that if you're bringing any law and if it is, there are stakeholder management that has to be done, consultation with the people who are involved and affected by the law. If the Punjab government has not done that exercise properly, as I am part of the federal government, then they should have done it. And even now, I feel that they should take the stakeholders on board and answer to all the queries that are being raised regarding this law. But the fact remains that in Pakistan, the defamation laws are not working. There's a massive propaganda mechanism which is in play in the social media and in the garb of freedom of expression. it is being those notions are being misutilized, and anti-state propaganda is being done. You can take on anyone and say anything about anyone, how horrendous it is. There is no accountability. So that part needs to be checked. We cannot ignore that part.
Yes,
and everybody agrees to that. Fahad, your take on that?
No. Ehsan, one second. Even media has given its own rules about. We proposed our own draft also earlier. Nobody is against accountability. We are affected the most because it erodes the credibility of mainstream media.
Okay, we're running out of time here, and I have to involve Fahad in the discussion. So, Fahad, what is your take? Finally,
we're not saying, nobody's saying don't. This is a wrong suggestion.
I'll just build on what Malik Saab is saying. I think nobody would argue against some sort of a professional regulation. We know that the digital media is being misused and abused by a lot of people, vested interest, political parties, and so many other stakeholders. So absolutely, and by the way, this concern is not specific to Pakistan. All over the world, in democracies, even democracies, there is this issue of trying to figure out how to deal with this open-ended misuse of social media. But there is a way to do it. And the problem with this bill is that it seems that the intention behind this bill, this law, is more than just simple professional regulation. This could have been handled better if stakeholders had been consulted, if there had been an open debate, and then some sort of a law could have been drafted with consensus. So because the government didn't do it, and because Punjab government went ahead and did it instead of the federal government taking the initiative, clearly there is a suspicion and there is solid grounds for suspecting that there is more to it than what meets the eye.
Thank you so much, all of my panelists, Fahad Hussain, Muhammad Malik, Brigadier Retired Haris Nawaz, and Rana Ehsan Afzal. Let's take a short break and with the global story. Welcome back to Epicenter once again. On the global front, at one hand, the International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to halt its Rafah offensive against the Palestinian population. And on the other side, there is this unending genocide by the Israel, which is completely backed by the US. Although the orders by the UN's top court are binding, but the question remains, what would it take for the Israel to comply? For this and more major developments internationally this week, let's watch this report. And to discuss these global developments, we have a panel of experts with us. Let me introduce to you Katrina Hussain, a very seasoned journalist and political commentator, political analyst. And we have with us Dr. Adil Najam, who is a renowned academic and an international affairs expert. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. And Dr. Adil, I'm coming straight to you. With the latest decision of the International Court of Justice, they're asking for something which so far has been very difficult to achieve. One, they have made several orders previously as well to halt the military operation in Gaza. That has not happened. Now they're asking to halt a military operation in Rafah. Two, they are asking to open the Rafah border crossing so that the humanitarian aid can go in easily. Three, to ensure access to Gaza for investigators and fact-finding missions. And last, report to the court within a month on its progress in applying these measures. Do you see Israel complying to this?
I'm not sure Israel will comply. Mr. Netanyahu certainly does not seem to be in a mood to respect international law, and we've seen nothing from his government that would give us that confidence. But that doesn't mean that this is without consequence. I think what this decision, and today not only did the decision come, but we also saw in these areas. So what all of that means is that the world is caving in on Israel and Mr. Netanyahu, and the pressure is on. And whether he complies or not, he is losing friends fast. He is losing supporters fast, even in countries which had steadfastly stood with him. Even in the US, we see that eroding. Eroding doesn't mean it has gone away, but the space that Mr. Netanyahu might have had 6 months ago is certainly not the one he has today.
Right. Katrina, I don't understand when somebody says that has become Netanyahu's personal war, because he is facing immense challenges domestically and globally as well. But even if he's replaced, his entire war cabinet is pursuing the same agenda when it comes to Palestine. Do you think removing Netanyahu, or for that matter anyone taking over the Netanyahu's space, is going to change anything?
That's a tough question, but it is in many ways driven by his personality. If you recall, even way back in the 90s, he became famous by his commentary during the invasion of Kuwait. And he came across as a hawk then, he's a hawk now, and he depends entirely on his hawkishness to propel his international and domestic agenda. And he's in so far that he's not going to be stepping back anytime soon. So, yeah, to answer your question, I don't think that there's going to be any qualitative difference in how this war will be prosecuted should he not be there anymore, because the entire Israeli war cabinet is just as hawkish as he is. We are talking about an entire change in government to bring about any change in the positions taken.
Right. Dr. Adil, a lot is under discussion ever since the sad and tragic demise of President Raisani, the Iranian president. And there are experts who think that nothing's going to change because the domestic politics, which directly control the foreign policy of Iran, they are not going to change. And some think while there is going to be presidential election, there is going to be an interim period where we might see some ambiguity from Iran. How do you see it?
I think that change, there is certainly a change. You know, even when faces change, there is a change because other opportunities come. So I think both parts of that premise are correct. It is true that the president in Iran is not as powerful as the title might suggest, and the power lies not only with the supreme leader, but also within the military establishment there, also within the clergy, and so on and so forth. So it's a balance. So all of that is true, but that doesn't mean that the removal of someone or the death in this case of someone at this level does not have a change. The most important change it does is there are two important changes that happen immediately. One is the level of uncertainty increases, right? So the question marks now from moving from we know who the president is to we don't know who the president is changes, and uncertainty increases the uncertainty in a region, in a country where uncertainty is already very high and already very costly. The second and important thing it does is it creates space for other actors. Jockey for who will be not just the next president, but who might be next in line for the supreme leader. So the politics changes both within Iran and internationally clearly with this.
All right. Katrina, Dr. Adil has talked of the ambiguity, or what he says is that there is going to be a period where we might see some sort of security blanket which might favor Iran. Do you agree to that? Also, the foreign policy in Raisani's time, it has been more directed towards coinciding with the Middle East, coinciding with Russia, China, and Afghanistan. Do you see that to continue even after Raisani?
I think that I agree with Dr. Adil. We are not going to see substantial changes because Iran, at the end of the day, were pretty much coming through from Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, we're not going to see substantive changes in that. I don't see any major regional shift. I agree that there will be a time of ambiguity, but Dr. Raisi, or Mr. Raisi's predominantly his work was on the domestic front. He was focusing very heavily. He would travel a lot, which is part of what happened when he had traveled to this far-flung area and when the crash occurred. So he was focusing more on domestic policy. We are going to see possibly some changes on the domestic front, given whoever the new president is. But by and large, foreign policy in Iran has been very consistent. for different organizations in the world, Iran was trying to open up. And we saw that, as you mentioned, as recently as last month. So whether that will continue or not, we don't know. But as far as the foreign policy pertaining to Israel and to the larger issues of the Middle East, I don't think we're going to see any change.
Right. Katrina, in 5 years, 4 clashes with the neighbors. And this is the time where we see there is a realignment of the whole global order. And we cannot afford to go on like this with all of our neighbors. At the same time, we have a strategic binding at times to be the tactical ally of US. And I'm referring it with special context of the Cold War in 1990s and war on terror. Where do you see Pakistan going now in terms of our foreign policy choice? Are we again going to take sides, or we have learned to remain a soft power somehow?
I think that what we need to look at are the reasons behind Pakistan's recent conflicts with Afghanistan, with Iran, and our continuing problems, of course, with India. Now, one of the things that we cannot rule out is that there has been a definitive spike in terrorism within Pakistan. We have been seeing several incidents taking place, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. And I think that these kind of tense situations on the borders will remain that way until there is a concerted effort to once and for all either deal with terrorism through talking to them with negotiations and trying to settle this situation, or launching more kinetic operations. But I'm wary of saying which non-state actors we're talking about. You've got domestic groups like the Pakistan Taliban, you've got ISIS, Khorasan province operating in this area. So it is a very complex situation. And setting that aside, I think Pakistan really needs to look closer than further away to the west for its allies. I think that one of our key partners so far has been China, but we need to reach out to other countries in the region. The current situation that occurred in recent days at Kyrgyzstan did not help the situation. Of course, that was not Pakistan's fault, but these kind of situations do develop. But we need to look closer within our own backyard, within our own neighborhood, for strategic partners and allies.
Right. Dr. Adil Najam, almost the same question to you with just a different context. I see a new Cold War in South Asia because the China is here and the developments with Taiwan and the US strategy towards China, it's all directing towards a new Cold War in South Asia this time. And there is already a spillover of Gaza, which is coming all the way through Middle East to Iran. With these two countries in the same region, what regional challenges Pakistan is facing at the moment?
I have a slightly different view. I think Pakistan's regional challenge is the global challenge. And I'm not sure, I think what the dynamics you're suggesting are correct, but I'm not sure that the Cold War is the right metaphor, because it suggests as if politics as usual, with US being one pole and another pole emerging, and this time just the Soviet Union will be replaced by China. I think we are heading, not only heading, we are in now a time.
You see an active war?
Well, whether it's war or not is less relevant. I think what is more relevant or even more immediate is that we are in a moment of transformation. And when transformation, what happens today in the court is a transformation, right? It's not only taking on Israel, it is taking on the US in some way as the major patron. So what we are seeing is a shift in global politics, and we do not know. This is the key point. We do not know where the shift will end. It could end like a Cold War. It might end with wars. We already see one in Ukraine. We see a genocide in Gaza. We see a transformation of global economics because of China. We see multiple power poles emerging, and they will all jostle. What does that mean for a country like Pakistan? This is not, in my view, this is not the time to choose sides. The only side Pakistan should choose is Pakistan, and that is very difficult to do when you have weakness, both internal and external, economic and political, right? So all our problems come at the absolute worst time, because times of transformation needs sort of hunkering in and waiting it out rather than being too early to choose allies.
perfectly phrased, and definitely we need more strategic clarity. And to both of my esteemed guests, I have one question to ask. What is the message that the American government is sending to its generation with what is going on its campuses when it comes to their support for what is happening in Gaza? One. Two, is Biden administration not at all bothered about the upcoming elections? And number three, is it possible that whosoever gets elected comes back with the same agenda and continue with the conflict in the same direction? Katrina, you go first.
That's a lot to take in one go. Let me start out with the domestic situation in the US and the college campuses. I think Dr. Adil would be able to give a definitive answer to that because he's right there. But from what we've been seeing from here, it has been interesting to see how the US campuses, multiple campuses have erupted in protest. And this goes to the heart of the problems within the United States about how they have functioned and talk about anti-Semitism in the United States. It's very real. But what is happening in Gaza and consequently the protests on US campuses cannot be equated to anti-Semitism. I don't buy those arguments. So it is very reminiscent of that. What the students are currently demanding is that they're demanding that campuses divest from companies that are either supporting Israel or involved in Israeli conflicts. Coming to the Biden administration, I think Mr. Biden must be very worried right now because this is definitively a large portion of what would constitute his supporters because liberal students and tend to support Democrats. And so I think that this is just boosting Mr. Trump's chances in the election. And what Mr. Trump will do is really up for grabs if he's elected because from what his past term shows us, nothing Mr. Trump does is ever predicted.
True. Mr. Adil Najam, same question for you. What is your take?
Lots of important things there, and I generally entirely agree with what Katrina had to say on this. I'll take the very last part first, which was, what about the next government in the US? Whatever the next government of the US is, I think on a number of major things, there will be no difference at all. Mm-hmm. There will be absolutely no difference on China. There will be absolutely no difference on Ukraine. There will probably be very little difference on Israel.
Agreed.
All right.
The difference on Israel that's coming is already coming, which is that the political pressure on Mr. Biden, and this has been as much Mr. Biden's war as Mr. Netanyahu's, is squeezing it. So that I think is a very sad fact, and that leads us actually to what's happening in the colleges. So I'm here in Boston. We had our own graduation this week. Harvard had its yesterday. Columbia had it earlier, and there is a lot of disquiet. And what we see in social media with the images is only a small part of it.
Right.
And maybe even be the most important part. The disquiet is a broken society. And the colleges have become, young people have become not just students, but faculty, right? So yesterday at Harvard, not just the students, but the faculty walked out. But the US crisis is much more than any of these individually. It is a combined societal breakup, of which what we are seeing on campuses is important. One very last short point. What we are seeing in what may be called pro-Palestine is also anti-Israel.
Right.
But it is, what has been disconnected is that it is not a Muslim protest. It is an American protest.
Absolutely.
With lots of Jewish students, with Christian students, and that's the breakup of society we are seeing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Adil Najam, precious time. Thank you so much, Katrina Hussain. It has been a pleasure talking to both of you. And this wraps up this week's Epicenter.